Welcome to Invincipod, probably the best podcast about Invincible that comes out once or twice a year on the internet. I'm James.
I'm Ralph.
And I can barely remember how we used to intro this show.
You do it pretty well.
Thank you. I mean,
hey, listen, about our release schedule. It's definitely quicker than Amazon's series Invincible.
Yeah,
so
we've got more episodes than they do, for sure.
And then we've talked about doing this episode, the end of all things, for a while.
Yeah, since the end of the show,
the podcast. Since the beginning of the podcast, I don't think you had finished Invincible.
I hadn't. No, I still hadn't.
Yeah, but I mean, you have, and then we just had the Star Wars show distracting us.
And I've since then I've finished it twice, so that's telling you
right.
something.
So I want to say the last episode of Invincipod, I mentioned that I was going to start reading it again and get through the whole thing. I stopped around like the fourth trade. I just kind of petered out because I've been busy doing other stuff. But
I've read those first few trades as well, like so many times. Back when I was working at the shop.
Lost.
Like exactly. It's like I just know it intrinsically. So I'm just like, there's stuff in the middle that I've only read once, but I've read the beginning tons of times, and I've read the end now like a couple of times. So this is fresh. What we're talking about today is fresh.
Can I tell you something?
Hit me.
I started rereading. We're discussing the final arc, the last 12 issues of Invincible. So first of all, if you haven't read those and you don't want to be spoiled, we're going to just talk about it. It's been out for a while.
We'll give you fair warning. Feel free to stick around until we sort of really get into it, but like we will be getting into it. So yeah, jump off if you haven't read it, because it's the end.
So I read all 12 yesterday.
Okay, I did 6
and 6. Found out. So speaking of only reading things once in the middle, there was an issue of Invincible that I had never read.
Oh wow, you missed one.
So I'm going. I open up my iPad and I'm like, okay, we're gonna do the last 12. That's when Ottley came back. That's like the final arc. That's a good chunk of time, and it's Invincible, so you can blast through them real quick. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's instead of just doing the final issue, let's do the final arc, and we can go over that. So I read 132, awesome, and then it said 134 was the next one. So I had not read 133. It wasn't downloaded. It wasn't purchased. There's two things that happen in that issue.
Quite major stuff, if I remember right.
That I missed that didn't even skip a beat when I read it through the first time.
You can extrapolate out, like you can figure it out. Yeah. All right, we're getting into it. We're getting into it right now.
But Oliver's funeral.
Yep.
And the marriage of Mark and Eve.
Yep.
Apparently, when I reread. When I picked up the book and read those, I don't know, assumed they were married. They never had an official wedding, and it's like 2 panels, I think, if that.
And it's almost immediately after the funeral as well. Like, so the issue opens.
Look at issue. I didn't even be able to see this.
We got the same issue. Yeah, it's an amazing panel.
Yesterday was the first day I've seen this image.
Yeah, there it is. It's great. And that's the thing. Like Jeremy Kelly says, he knows better than anyone. The Invincible is such a quick read. And it is. There are issues where it's big splash battle, fight, where there's maybe like 2 word balloons on the entire page, if that. It's just Ottley going nuts and doing what he does best. And then there are issues like the very final issue, which is like it's up there with a Bendis issue, where it's essentially like novelistic in terms of there's probably more dialogue than art on the page, because they're wrapping up a lot. That last issue is very much like an epilogue to an end of a long running series, which it kind of is. But even in that, it still does so much. Like that last issue could have been 50 issues if they wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I forgot about that last issue is they sort of do
as
a
I'm,
condensed version of throughout the years,
Mhm.
and I really dig that. Yeah, Jeremy Kelly says Invincible is such a quick read. It is. It
Yeah.
really is. Like I'm not a reader, but I went through 12 issues yesterday, starting at like I don't know 8 at night until like
Mm.
probably took me like 2 hours, probably longer than most. But
But you're enjoying it. You're sort of taking it all in, and I feel like because you
right,
know that it's the end, and this time around I wasn't. This was my second read, so I knew the beats, but I was able to sort of just soak it all in a lot more. Whereas first time I was so gripped. I'd got back in. I'd read the whole thing again. It had been years since I'd read any Invincible. I'd watched the show recently. Like I was so in, and I couldn't put it down. It was exactly what Jeremy Kelly did recently, where he went through
yeah,
all 144 issues
we
or whatever it is in
so
what, a week.
it was like I think it was like 9 days.
That's
I think it was
nuts.
9 days. We did our previous episode, which was a
Mhm.
while ago before like Andor, I think. Um,
Maybe, yeah.
and Jeremy was wondering, he's like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna start reading it. I like the show so much," and we convinced him that reading the book is a different experience than watching the show. You might
Totally.
get technically spoiled on stuff that may happen or may not happen in the show, but as a fan, as both of us being readers of like the first few story arcs of Invincible, still found a lot of
Oh, it
value
was
in the
it was so
show.
fun. It was a great adaptation because it was adapting the series as the whole, not just book to book.
So he said I had DM'd him or something, and I'm like, listen, man, if you don't want to, you don't have to. Um, I'm gonna go today to the library or something. I'm gonna go and get or have Amazon something or I'm gonna get the
Yeah,
first
I think
trade.
he ordered the first
I told
omnibus, didn't
him,
he?
I
Yeah.
yeah, I told him, I said, hey, listen, man, I don't want to tell you how to spend your money.
They're not
I
cheap.
really there, yeah, but I'm just gonna let you know, you're gonna blast through the first trade. If you get the trade paperback, you're gonna blast through
Mhm.
it in about 20 minutes,
I think that
and
first
you're
trade
gonna
is only
just be
4 issues as well. It's
and you're
it's
just gonna be
real
sitting
breezy.
there. You're gonna be sitting there like, just like, okay, well, I
Mhm.
guess I'll go and order the second. I just said, I'm like, you don't have to buy an omnibus. You don't. I think he got the compendiums. I don't remember
Yeah,
which one
the
he
the
got.
the big
He
like
can mention in the
50
chat.
issue ones, yeah.
It was yeah one of the big chunks where I think there's like three of them. There's like three, and
Uh,
that's the whole series or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. I think the whole series is done in 3, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't. I'm like, I don't. I'm not saying like go spend all your money, but he mentioned that he had like Amazon cards, and I want to say they were on sale. Let me just say, yesterday when I went to go purchase, anybody interested in reading Invincible and wants to do it digitally, I don't know how long this has been going on for. I don't know how many issues this is happening to, but issue 133 and all the issues around it when I went on Amazon, 25 cents.
Holy crap. That's incredible.
25 cents.
It it makes
It,
sense. They have the property. Like they got the license deal.
right,
Like they should be
right.
pushing Invincible as like as soon as you open up Comixology, it should just be the first thing you see all the time.
Right. So I don't want to tell people how to spend their money, but if you want
Mhm.
to read Invincible, you can do it. Jeremy did get a physical copy. Those compendiums are amazing.
They're great.
It might be, yeah, he ended up ordering all three compendiums at the same time.
I mean, you're
Um,
not you're not going to travel with those compendiums. Like they
no,
are heavy. They're big books, but
yeah,
they look great on a shelf. And because of how breezy the read is, there you go. Yeah, he got all three for 100 under 120 bucks.
it's
That's
a good
incredible.
deal, but at the same
Yes.
time, I didn't want to say, hey,
Go spend
friend,
120
on my
bucks.
recommendation, trust me, go spend around 120. But yeah, I don't have any issues digital. I do all my stuff through digital.
I generally
And
do
with
that.
Invincible, I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't know how much you're going for. Check out the trades versions. I would
Mhm.
probably look at the trade versions. Those are probably on sale too.
All of them, I'm sure.
Um, but like 25 cents a pop is so insane. Like
It's great.
I've never seen a Comixology comic that low. They usually get down to 99 cents, and that's
99
usually when
cents,
I'll,
and
like,
you might get like a
go
free
over.
issue of the first issue or something like that. But yeah, that's about
Yeah.
as good as it gets.
Yeah.
And oh wow, Jeremy did actually travel with them. Did you have a second suitcase just for those? Like, that's insane, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, anyone who hasn't read Invincible, I highly recommend it. What's great about it is it does follow the show, but it's different enough to where it feels like, I don't want to belittle the show, but the show feels like a Cliff Notes version,
Yeah.
like a condensed version where things are
Right.
switched around and moved. So you'll just get more from these characters.
We've said it in the past that when the show got renewed for season 2, they got renewed for season 2 and 3, which we were like, that's great. If that is all they get, we hope that they get more.
Right.
If that is all they get, and they know that going in now, they could structure this out to tell a 3-series story and probably get all the major beats in there.
Right.
But again, I think it's one of those keys where it's like they got to know that going in to be able to structure it out that way.
I'm happy with the fact that they made this show. I couldn't believe that they were making this show. And when we saw the first trailer, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This,
and it looks like the
book come to
comic.
life.
Yeah.
The art looks like a perfect mix between Ottley and Walker.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was so stoked that the season 1 turned out so well. And it sort of ended where we thought we were going to end, with Nolan's turn.
Yeah.
But if they just listen, I would be totally fine if they did a season 2, maybe 10 episodes instead of, I think we had 8 or something like that. Maybe 10 episode season 2, a 10 episode season 3.
Yeah.
And then sort of this storyline.
It's like
the end of all things.
An animated movie.
It's like a 2-hour movie. Amazing. And then then they can go make a live action thing if they want to, but I feel like I'm happy with the way this has turned out. I don't want this going on too long. No. I know it's been like over 2 years since the last season, but I feel like
people found it.
Like season 2 and 3.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people mention it in other podcasts and stuff. Like the guys over at the Ringerverse guys, this show seems to come up whenever they're talking about anything else sort of superhero-y. Like, I don't know if it had the biggest reception when it first dropped, but everyone who watched it loved it. And I think it has found legs over the last couple of years as well. So hopefully they give it a big push when season 2 does come and it gets like really good numbers and they can just keep going with it. Because I say that I want them to finish off this story as we know it, but there's so much room at the end of this book. There is room for more. Like you could tell so much more without Mark and Eve. Like you could go off with the kids. They're fully fleshed out characters. Everyone in this book is so well fleshed out that you don't have to stick with Mark Grayson as Invincible. There are essentially 2 other Invincibles at the end of this.
Right. And the thing with popularity too is, so Amazon seems to really be pushing the show. Yeah. Before we jumped on, I was over at the Invincipod YouTube channel. I like to just sort of any clips that show up from either Skybound or Amazon or Amazon UK. I just like to pop them on our page so people can just find a nice, easy place to find all this stuff.
Yeah, it is a good way to find it.
And like they're posting Invincible stuff all the time on Amazon, like short video clips. And then the trailer for season 2, the one with Alan sitting
in the one in the diner,
I don't know if this is good numbers. I'm assuming it's good numbers, but it has 5.7 million views. I'm assuming that's really good for an animated show on a lower tier streamer.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So when I go to the movies every Sunday with my sister and Stevie, they do the silence your cell phones. Well, they have one now that's brought to you by Amazon.
Oh, okay.
And it's all their shows saying, picking up the phone, telling people to be quiet and stuff like that.
Right.
But there is Invincible is in there, like one of the first things you see of Mark on his phone.
That's cool. That's really good.
And so, like, the thing I love about this is that you can tell that Amazon uh likes this property enough to like push it forward. There's a lot of stuff you see from Netflix
Yeah.
where it'll just be like, well, I like John Mulaney. Like John Mulaney had a new stand-up thing
like, a
drop
couple of days
yesterday.
ago. Yeah.
And I go on Netflix and I have to go like I had to literally actually search for it, and I'm like,
Oh wow.
that happens a lot. I feel like with Netflix.
Yeah,
It's like they
stuff
have
just
a
gets
thing and they
buried.
don't.
They've
Yeah,
just
they
got
don't.
a
They don't feel
glut
like
of content.
promoting it.
I'd say that's one thing that I do think Apple TV Plus does better than anyone is because they kind of only release one thing at a time. Like that Friday when that thing drops, that is all
That's
over their
the
page.
thing.
You can't miss
Right.
it, whether you want to watch it or not. And I tend to find that I check out at least the first episode of almost everything because I'm like, cool, that's the new thing. They're only doing one at a time. Maybe it's not for me, maybe it is, but I generally do give at least the first episode of most of their stuff a try.
Yeah.
Silo is
that's
the one
what-
that they're pushing at the moment, and that's based on a book series that I really like. So that's coming out May 5th, I think. So,
But I love that Amazon's doing this. They're still
it's great.
Invincibles. It hasn't been around for 2 years. They're still promoting it, all their stuff. When your profiles on Apple TV in the Prime app, my little icon is Mark, because
mine is James Holden
Mark
from The Expanse. But yeah, the fact I didn't even realize that you could pick Mark. I hadn't seen that on there. Oh, that's great. Mine might get changed.
Because I love going through those every once in a while and see what they added.
Yeah,
and I saw that they had Invincible once. I'm like, oh shit, okay, cool. Disney Plus is still one I can't figure out.
Mine's been R2
like
since mine's been R2 since it started, I think.
There are 2 Ralphs. There's Wreck-It Ralph and there's Ralph Wiggum. So I've done those a couple times, but right now I think I'm like, it's like Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. So but like my Amazon one is set.
Nice.
My Peacock one is Dom Toretto, because Fast and Furious is dope. I don't care who knows it.
I think no, we don't have Peacock over here.
And then so me and Stevie share the HBO Max one, and it's just as apples, because we watch the same stuff on there. We don't need to split out our stuff. But it just says it's just a picture of Eric Wareheim.
I don't know
from Tim and Eric.
Oh right,
Tim and Eric Gossip Show, and it's just I don't know. It's funny when you open it, but yeah, Invincible has Prime icons for your profiles.
The Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg movie that was announced way before the show was announced, and is still they still talk about it being in development. Is that Amazon Studios as well? Do we know, or is that?
I don't know. It could be,
because if it is, then it makes sense, and they can cross promote and they can do all that sort of stuff. And like Skybound is obviously they're getting their deal, they're getting their cut from whoever it's with. But you got to think, because this show is with them and it's still produced by Seth Rogen and everything, he's involved with both projects. I would assume that it's Amazon Studios, or at least distributing, if not producing as well. If that ever comes to pass, and
I feel like it could.
Said it could, but it doesn't need to.
So
if it does, I kind of hope that it doesn't adapt the books. It does something else in the universe. That's what I'd like if it does the movie.
Like its own, but I feel like you have to have Nolan.
You have to have Nolan. You can have Nolan. You can have Mark. Like, you can have those guys in there, but it doesn't need to be this story. It could be something set at a different point in the timeline.
So I recently went and saw the movie Air. About the Air Jordan. Great movie.
Yeah, you mentioned it last week.
Great movie.
It's
Amazon Studios.
I'm waiting for it to drop on there.
So I'm gonna watch it again. I really enjoyed it. But I'm thinking if they have a relationship with Ben Affleck, would you? I'm trying. I still think of him as young, but he's not young anymore.
He's not young.
He's got teenagers.
And he's got the gray temples and everything. Like, he's played Superman. He's played Batman. Like, I could,
Would you be cool with Ben Affleck as Nolan?
Yeah, because he can also be a prick when he wants to be.
Right.
Which works for Nolan. Like, we need Nolan to be scary when he needs to be scary, and also
get him the
really, really lovable when he needs to be lovable.
Charming.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that a lot.
that would
Yeah.
be. I think that would be great. I don't know if he would do it because I always thought of something like Jeffrey Dean Morgan, like
Yeah.
as a Nolan type, but he's showing up in the show.
He was reading something for Invincible recently.
Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, that yeah,
I
that'd be
like that a
good.
lot. I think that's really good. I feel like he's done enough comic book stuff that he's probably at least aware of it existing if he's not read it.
Right.
He's not afraid of doing genre TV or movies, like, and it's a role that he could have basically matured into. So I could see it happening. I could see that being a potential.
Man. And then get a
I like
real
it.
teenager kid.
Yeah, yeah, someone new, someone fresh that we don't even know about
Yeah.
yet.
Someone along the lines of the kid who's playing Blue Beetle, who plays Miguel on Cobra Kai. Like not him,
I didn't know he
but
was playing Blue Beetle. That's cool.
yeah, like that. Like that's a dude that just like
Mhm.
showed up and he's like, oh, perfect
Yeah,
teenager.
yeah, one of those Cobra Kai kids, like someone of that generation. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd work. He'd be good. He's already got a superhero thing.
Right. He said.
Yeah.
And he's probably like 28 or something. And
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
like
I'm
playing
sure
a
that
teenager.
when they first started Cobra Kai, he was probably about right.
Exactly. Exactly.
By the time that movie comes out, he'll be playing Nolan.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hope it happens. I mean, I feel like anything they
I
do with
do
the
now.
property, it
Yeah.
just makes more people go to the book.
I do now that we've got the show and the show is set for another couple of seasons and stuff. Like we're getting that. No matter what, we're getting that. I think I would have pushed back on it before if it was a movie or series. In the same way that
Right.
I sort of pushed back about Scott Pilgrim because I always thought it would be much better as an animated series, but we're getting that now.
Yeah. With all the
So
same people too. That's crazy.
exactly. That's great casting. And Brian Lee O'Malley is sort of overseeing it a lot of the time. So perfect.
Is
Great.
that Netflix?
Yeah. Yeah.
So watch the day it comes out. You're
I
gonna
don't
have
know.
to search for it.
Netflix is so interesting because of the algorithm and everything. Like, so it might get pushed to people like us because we talk about it and they're all listening. I don't know. Big data is scary. Maybe we just need to talk about the things that we like on the internet more.
Yeah.
Not that we do
Yeah.
that every
There was
week.
there was this one week where I just kept mentioning the word mustard
Yeah,
just to see if I would get
mustard ads.
ads. But
I mean, I get
yeah.
ads for every possible Star Wars product you can think of.
Yeah, sunglasses lately. I've been
I've been getting
sunglasses.
sunglasses, board shorts. I saw some really cool Endor board shorts that I nearly bought the other day.
Don't do it.
I don't need them. I really don't need them, but
Don't do it.
they look cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the endable things though, because
Yes.
this arc has everything. Like it has everything that is great about the series Invincible done in 12 issues.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a masterpiece of how to end a comic book run, I think. The fight with Thrag.
No, okay. Yeah.
Like
I completely forgot about it.
I forgot
And
the
it's
details.
nuts.
It's in the sun. It's completely
no.
it's yeah, like that's sort of as soon as they get to the sun, as soon as Mark like pushes him into the sun, and then it just goes from there. Star Wars minutes.
Their clothes burn up.
Yeah, their skin burns
and you're
up.
like, their skin burns up. And they're like half skeletons almost by the time it ends.
It gets to the point where you
crazy.
it's hard, it's almost hard to figure out who's who, but when you get a close-up of a face, you can still see that it's Mark. Yeah. Like I found, like on some of the wide shots, I mean, it's grim what is happening to them. It's so gnarly.
And it's not inked, or it's inked with color instead of black, where the artwork just looks completely different.
Yeah.
It's almost like Kirkman had this idea and he's like, I gotta save it for the end because it's gonna be visually different. And it's the way he's able to like ramp things up to the most insane thing.
Yeah.
I feel like
Always.
that's where I dropped off of Walking Dead, was like things would get crazy by the end of arc, and I'm like, okay, now we got to keep going and move forward. And I like that this sort of climax with Thrag is absolutely nuts. And this is kind of why I hope they end with like sooner than later,
Yeah.
because I want to see this in animation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it goes from being a superhero comic, a comic about family and friendship, to like full gore horror, like just the most, like we talk about it all the time, how when they get into a big fight, the like Ottley and the gore and the blood splatter and everything, it's always hits because it's like poof, there it is, and he does it
Yeah.
so well. And then you got this fight, which is so grim, but
The artwork, you can feel it, you can tell it's like it
carries
almost
a
feels
weight.
animated, the way
Yeah.
it's done, and the way they're both like disintegrating as they fight, and where
And
you see like a punch and like skin and bone breaking off.
and the most of this last issue of the fight, it's not the last issue of the thing. I'm flicking through it now, and it's once they go into the sun, into like the magma. As soon as they come out, when they don't have any skin anymore, there's no dialogue. It's all the boxes are. It starts
Yeah.
with Mark sort of in his head saying, "I wish you could hear me," and then it's him monologuing in his own head everything
Yeah.
that he's thinking, and it's it's punch after punch is each caption box. It's the caption boxes are the punches more than the fist to the face or the forehead to the nose or the hand through the chest or any of the horrible stuff that's going on. Like,
I love the hand through the chest is
that becomes
the
the
signifier,
move,
but that's like the signifier that a character is dead.
which is
Like we
why
get
when we see it a little bit earlier with Nolan, we're like, oh fuck,
that's a finishing move.
and it's very much a Viltrumite
Same with
thing
Robot.
as well.
It happens with Robot later.
Mm-hmm.
That's the finishing move. And I love that that's the thing, because these guys throughout the series get beat up so much and come back from near death so many times that it's like, this is the signal that it's over for this person. And even though Nolan moves enough out of the way
it
for
still
the
is
chest
his
thing
end.
to hit his arc, it's still his end.
That still is what kills him for sure. Yeah.
But it happens 3 times, I believe, in this arc. Hand through the
of a
chest.
major character. If you look in the background of some of the fights, other Viltrumites are killing the half Viltrumites with that same move. Like that's their power move. It's
there's also
amazing.
things where they do hand swipes and they just like cut through people. And I love always looking at those, because you'll get somewhere that's like cut at the jaw. I'm not into gore and stuff, but like stuff like that cracks me up, because I want to see like Ottley's sort of how crazy he can go in this book. And there's one shot where I think it's Nolan's swiping people, and it cuts a Viltrumite woman right halfway between her boobs, and it's like the funniest thing.
Yeah,
I guarantee you Ottley was just giggling when he
it's the same as when Thrag is like throwing his quote unquote children and then using them as a bat and stuff, because they're so disposable to him. Like when he's throwing them at Mark and Nolan because they explode on impact. It's just, and as you said, it's Ottley just giggling at being able to draw the most ridiculous stuff ever.
The Thrag has 2 dogs on a leash, and you're like, that's weird. They're in space. He has 2 dogs on a leash. What a strange concept. But then he uses them as weapons. He's swinging them around like yo-yos.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is nuts. Like, I don't know. Is that an Ottley thing, or is it a Kirkman thing, or is it both of them just sitting in a room talking about using dogs as nunchucks?
It's like he's Catwoman with the bolos. Like,
who I don't know who came up with it. I can't. They both would come up with that.
All 3 of them, because Cory Walker is involved in, even if he wasn't
Cory
drawing, like he was, like they've both said, like he's involved in a lot of the design stuff all the way through.
But that's what makes this book so great, is you don't know.
And it's
these guys.
Like,
I don't know.
So over the top, but in the best way. Not in a ridiculous way. Like, it is ridiculous, but it's ridiculous in the same way that any superhero comic is ridiculous. But They don't try and ground it in our reality. It's in its own reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's one of those things where you look at the first issue about a kid in high school, and then it gets to this point, and it it still works. Like, I still, even though I picked it up like, just the last 12 issues instead of reading all the way through again.
Mhm.
I'm like, yep, nope. I remember Las Vegas. I remember uh uh uh
The Invincible War.
all of this stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Um and it all, like,
blowing up Viltrum.
he Kirkman had a plan, definitely, at least for the first arc.
Yeah,
Like,
but
it was clear.
the Nolan reveal was meant to be. I read the back matter of this, the trade that I was reading, and he was saying, like, originally his plan, and he told it to, I think it was Eric Larson. He said, "I'm gonna have in issue 25, Nolan is kills the Guardians of the Globe and is revealed as the bad guy," and Larson was like, "You better move that up, otherwise you're not getting to issue 25." And
Right.
he was like, I can maybe push it to 12. And he's like, do 5, get it to issue 5. And he got it to, I think it was issue 8, 7 or 8 in the end. And that was the best he could do to sort of bring the story down. And he's like, it was the best advice anyone's ever given me in comics, because there was no way. There was absolutely no way.
Yeah. I always think of it as being later, as like issue 25 or something, but
It's because
yeah,
they
it
do so
happens real
much in
quick.
that time. Yeah.
Well, I think you see him kill the Guardians, and then later it's revealed that where he explains where he came from is a later thing, but he kills the Guardians, like, sooner. I think that's what I like about the series is, in the first issue they just show it, which is what grabbed a lot of people, and also that was the moment where they first showed blood. So you think this is a show,
And
that's
then you
one
get to the
thing,
end.
and then you get to the end, because it's one of my favorite things is to watch the reaction videos
Yeah.
to that first episode of Invincible,
And people are just like,
where you could tell what people have, people have seen Invincible versus who read it, who haven't read it.
It's
a
really
real
smart.
fun watch. But what's great about the show is they tweaked it to the point where we as the audience know Nolan's a bad guy, but nobody else does.
Yeah.
And it's pretty great watching that, everybody, like, going about their lives and then slowly figuring it out, especially Debbie.
Oh,
Like, I think the storyline for Debbie in the show is much better than at least the opening of the book.
She's less of a victim, I think, in the show. In the book, it's like she gets to the point where she's not that at all. But in the opening issues, she is just the mum who's there. Whereas in the show, she has a lot more to do. I think, the show, we said it when we were talking about each episode. It feels like it's Kirkman being able to sort of go back and revise what he did before. Like, I don't know if he'd changed the book fully, but he might tweak some things. It's a second pass, a story that he wrote like 17 years earlier or something, like when the show came out. So it's like, that's great that he's been able to go back in, sort of basically do his George Lucas bit, but tweak and change some stuff. It's good. It makes sense for the show. It makes more sense for the show.
I'm one of the reasons why I kind of want this to end with, like, well, not after season, it's 3 seasons in but a movie, is so that we can get this fight with Thrag.
And I think you need
really
to have the threat of Thrag be so high that he's defeated once already and comes back and he's even stronger, sort of thing. So we've talked about it in the past, how we'd sort of structure it out with, like, what big events. So you've got obviously the Nolan one being the first one. I think, based on who they've introduced, doing the Invincible War with all the other different versions of Invincible would be really interesting and really good. Maybe you do a time jump at the end of that, have Mark gone for 5 years or something.
Oh yeah.
Then, because that is a big plot point. That is a major thing, and having him gone,
especially in this.
Yeah. It would be, and then like the Viltrumite War. Maybe you do the Invincible War in 2 episodes at the beginning of the season or something, and then you do the rest of that season building up to and like culminating in the Viltrumite War. Having conquest and everything, and then just the ramping up to that, and then the final or the 3rd season be he's gone for a while and then he's back, and then you're building up. Thrag is defeated. Nolan is in control of the Viltrumite Empire, the reluctant leader on the moon. Robot being all the stuff with Robot. You could do that in season 3. Have them basically have Mark and Eve leave. Because they leave Earth and they're just like, yeah, no, we lost essentially, or we're giving up. We're letting Robot have it, where he can take it at this point. And then again, all of these plot points are wrapped up in this last arc. It's kind of incredible that they managed to do it, and do it in a satisfying way.
Yeah, and it's not just a way where it's like at the end of episode 3 of Star Wars, episode 3, where they're like, oh yeah, also have this droid's memory wiped, and oh, here, grab the lightsaber, where it all kind of gets, it's all sort of like, oh shit, like it's like when you're writing out a banner that says happy birthday. I think it's John Mulaney says that has a bit where it says, where you start the banner off with a big old H, and then by the time you're at the end of the year, like the DAY is real small. So that's what episode 3 felt like. Like it was going, oh shit, we got
so much to do. Yeah.
Whereas this one, I like that they took 12 issues. Yeah. He's like, it's not a regular 7-issue story arc.
And they're not all like regular size either. Like there's a lot of double-sized or extra pages.
The final ones is a double size, which is perfect because you get sort of the end of the story as one part of the issue, and sort of this epilogue of over the next course of 500 years. Yeah. For the epilogue, and it's so amazing that they visit Eve on her deathbed, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this.
She's human, like she's gonna have to die. Yeah. Her powers keep her alive longer, but
and that's something that's brought up in the series and in the comic is that like Debbie was treated like a pet, because Nolan's going to live, an infinite amount of years, and Debbie's the just line in the fight on his radar.
The line in the fight, and it's called back in the very final page of Invincible, where it's in that fight with Nolan. He says to Mark, in 500 years, what will you have if you stay here? If you choose to be among the humans and just live your life like a regular human, you'll still be here. Yeah. None of these people will. Like, what will you have done? And
what's amazing is that as I was reading this finale and they started like jumping ahead through the years, I'm like, oh no, Eve. Mark's going to be without Eve because Tara's Viltrumite and she's, and then you see Eve on the deathbed and it's like, oh, man, this sucks. And then you forget, oh, she can manipulate atoms.
I mean, she's sort of God mode kind of thing. Like she at this point she might outlive Mark. Like
maybe, yeah.
Like Viltrumites aren't completely immortal. They do die eventually. Like it takes a long time, but they will eventually get old and die. But yeah, she is just gonna regenerate, and then she doesn't just age. Like he ages very, very slowly. She just ages at a regular rate, dies, and then regenerates. It's amazing. And that's why Mark's reaction when he she pops back up and he's like, oh, I guess I am immortal. And he's like, awesome. He's got himself a young wife the whole time. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it plays into the fact that at that point they're still young adults. They basically in the time scale of it, maybe at that point they're sort of they're still Mark and Eve. They are still just Mark and Eve the whole time.
And the stuff with Marky, that was all interesting stuff. I completely forgot about that. Mark getting essentially raped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
it was. I remember it coming out and it being like very controversial at the time because
yeah,
it kind of wasn't dealt with in the issues when it first happened.
yeah,
But Kirkman was like, I am not taking this lightly. I'm not just writing this lightly or as flippantly as a joke. Like this is serious. Um,
yeah,
and it came back up, and the fact that no one knew, and when you find out as a reader that he has a kid, it's when they're gathering up all the Viltrumite children, robots gathering up all the Viltrumite children at the start of like the big final conflict with Thrag, and you see her, I can't remember, Anissa, yeah,
yeah. I think so.
and you're like, oh god, her, hate her. She has a son, and it's clearly Mark's son, and it's like,
Right.
oh wow. And no one finds out until like after she dies, and it's Eve
Yeah.
that finds out first, and it's Eve that then tells Mark, you gotta go and see this kid, you gotta go and talk to him.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. And he does, and he tries to do the best. And I love that you get the callback to where I come from.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, you get the whole story again, the Viltrumite story, but like a third
but from
version of
Mark's
it.
point of view, yeah,
Uh-huh.
and it's been altered, and it's great. It's the same thing where when Mark heard the story, I believe he said something like, "Oh, I'm a superhero,"
Yeah,
and in this one, Marky's like, "Oh, I'm an alien." Like it's such a like, and what's great is when you get the time jump, you kind of already understand Marky's arc when
yes,
he reappears as
you
a
because
teenager or
it is
adult.
so similar to Mark and Nolan, but
Yeah,
Mark isn't Nolan. He's gone through it all himself, so
yeah,
he's able to sort of talk to him. And it's the same thing that when him and Alan fight, it's like Mark's greatest strength hasn't been his fist, it hasn't been his resilience. It's been the fact that more often than not, when he's straight up won a fight, it's because they've been able to talk it out
right.
more than just
Yeah.
go fists. He'll do that.
It's funny how
I loved seeing the
whether
Mauler
you're
twins. The Mauler twins
doing
who
good,
they got
doing
everything
good.
that they wanted. They were able to do all their research, and now they're like, yeah, we don't need to be criminals. Like we're happy. We're here to clean up.
But I
Thought that
like
was great.
that the little drones that they send out look like the what is it, the Atama men?
The Ottoman, yeah.
Yeah,
And the same with like a lot of the bad guys come back up in this last thing. A lot of the ones who had
yeah.
been sort of like mini major bad guys. Um,
One of
yeah.
one of the things with Marky I want to bring up though is that like
Hmm.
Mark is a good guy. Mark is
Hmm.
doing everything for good. Nolan was kind of a shithead. He was an asshole that really wasn't doing things great. And it doesn't matter how those two fathers acted, whether it was good or bad.
Hmm.
Their absence was still affected both of them. Um, dude, like, oh, man, it's insane that they were able in the last 12 issues to introduce a brand new character, a child of your main character, and like with just the little amounts of limited panel space dedicated to this character, you understand everything that's happened to him.
They introduce a a daughter for Battle Beast as well. Just
Right.
literally, they have one full page, and then she's in like one more panel, and it's like
It's
you could do
it's
a
one
whole
of those
series just
things.
there.
It's one of those things that's great about it is that Invincible from the get-go is Kirkman opening threads
Yeah,
and waiting to see how those it could be 20 issues before you see that
more
thread
and more.
finish.
Yeah, yeah.
So for
It's
Kirkman to
sometimes it became,
introduce
if you're reading
it,
month to month, like that's why I think both of us, like we both went through different types of reading with this series. And then I found when I was reading month to month, I was like, shit, I know who that is, but what
yeah.
context do I have for them? Like I remember that name or I remember that design, but like I've forgotten when the last time that I saw them was and what they were up to back then.
And that's why you reread the first three trades or so many times is because you're like, oh
Exactly.
shit, okay, I know it's going to take me about an hour to just reread all of it. I might as well just reread all of it and get caught
Yeah.
up again. But what's great about Kirkman it's amazing. He's so happy
Yeah.
when his grandma takes him to get his suit, and
His
for him
seat
to
up.
pick Invincibles, it's amazing, and he likes being called Kid Invincible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Mark didn't want to be called Kid Omni Man.
No, he
Uh,
fought against it.
so, but what's great about it is that with Kirkman
Darkwing
opening
comes back.
these threads, yeah, it's so random. For Kirkman opening these threads, these new threads of the daughter of Battle Beast and stuff like that, it's like, you know what? They're probably not. He said this. He's done with Invincible.
Mm-hmm.
Issue 144 is it. That's it. No more.
Yeah, it wasn't
But
the
it's
surprise
nice that he
ending that
left
Walking
us.
Dead got. It was a planned ending. Everyone knew that it was
Yeah.
coming. Yeah.
But it's nice that he left the fans with like, listen, I'll leave you some of these things. You know how these things shake out. Go and enjoy these stories in your head.
It's still very much
really
Invincible
nice.
all the way through. Again, like we get a son of another villain, like comes back who's like, I'm gonna have to find him. I'm gonna have to fight him. And it's like, he probably didn't, but Mark, he might have. Kid Invincible probably did at some point.
Yeah. It's almost like Kirkman's like, this is for the fans. The fans know that everything can't be wrapped up. The fans need to know that there's continuing adventures. We know Mark's not going to die in the next 500 years, but
it's still very much Invincible.
It's like a gift, and also because it's young, it's like the offspring of these people. Like, I don't know, maybe Kirkman Jr. out there gets his blessing from his dad on his deathbed. Oh, yeah, go ahead and go continue Invincible, but Mark's alive for 500 years, so you can't kill him. So it's like one of those things where it's like it's the end, and I'm totally satisfied with it. It's like Lost. Like I'm satisfied with the ending of Lost, and I don't need more Lost. But man, I'd sure be interested to see what that would be like if it went on. Don't push your luck. I'm happy where we are. Don't push your luck. But
do it if
I
the
really
story is right for it.
Right.
I really love that in the final issue, the first half of it, because it's a double size thing, the first half of it is Ottley art that ends with Marquis visiting Nolan's grave and sort of saying, it's the line here, I'll just read it, is he chose Invincible because it was something that he felt like he was. I chose it because it's what I'll have to be if I'm ever to live up to his legacy, because he turned out to be so much more than that. And it's like, you could end the series right there. Perfect way of ending the show, ending the series. It's great. And then you turn the page and you've got Corey Walker art, but like the best Corey Walker art that he's ever done. And you see, there's been a time jump, and then the next page you get decades of time jumps, and it's
this Tara storyline is so amazing. Just watching her grow up.
It's done in 6 panels, 6 like page length panels. Yeah. It's great. And then she's in her own version of the Invincible costume as well.
Even though she thought it was dorky as a kid.
She thought it was dorky as a kid, but she's not being a superhero. She's not fighting. She's not with the Viltrumite Empire. She's in like essentially like the restoration program for the galaxy. Who then later on
plans together.
But she then decides that it's probably wise, and she's going to advise that they break away from the Viltrumite Empire. It's all of these things, all of these different good guy factions. It's like under galactic peace that Mark has been responsible for. Do we need these coalitions, or is it better for people to be governed by themselves and things like that? It's still asking these big questions. It's incredible. And then again, we get a whole war in one page.
Like, and just on that page, you could tell what's going on. Like,
exactly. And before that, they were like, between Mark and Alan here, it's like, maybe it doesn't. Oh God, I was really afraid you were going to say that. And it's like they've both been through all of these different conflicts together, and each like they've built up. They've done the Invincible War, Viltrumite War, this war, and it's built up, and they've always been big deals when they've dropped those titles. And then you get essentially a war between the Viltrumite Empire, who are good guys at this point, and the Coalition of Planets, who we've known as good guys throughout the whole series. And I was like, I'm glad that we don't see it follow it for any issues, because I don't want to be rooting for either side. I want I'm rooting for them to just like, guys, you're both good, just talk it out, and then that's what you get.
Yeah.
They're helping
It's
each other. They are still friends.
and it's what's crazy about it is like Kirkman, if you read Walking Dead and you read Invincible, there's a bit of a cynicism to Kirkman's writing.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that this book ends on a hopeful note
Mm-hmm.
and a happy ending floored me when I first read it. I'm like, I can't believe it. I'm so happy right now that everybody's okay and happy. You don't see that. You don't really see that in movies. Even when you
And
watch The Rise of Skywalker, Palpatine's gone, everything's good. Good is conquered, evil. But at the end, you have Rey, who feels kind of sad.
it's a bittersweet. There's a
Yeah,
bittersweet to it. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
And,
Whereas this is like it's a full on like beach episode. Like, yeah, they're just by the pool and they're having a great time, and it's lovely. And yeah, the last page is just I've been thinking a lot lately about I've been thinking a lot about the past lately, and one thing keeps coming back up. There's just so many things that remind me of something my father said to me once. It was during our big fight. He looked down at me and said, "What will you do after 500 years?" And then it's just a heh. Like, and it's just
yeah,
it's that what will you do after 500 years? It's whatever they
he
want
won.
because they've done it. They
He
won.
won.
They did everything that they could ever hope to do.
It was Nolan had no hope in the future.
Mm. Mm.
So what you got? You got nothing. And then here it's
And that's also the comes up in the fight with Thrag, where Thrag knows that he's lost. He's sacrificed. He's over it. He doesn't care about the kids, his kids. He doesn't care about any of it. He's he's just out for revenge. He just wants to kill Mark and Nolan at that point.
yeah,
And that's why their fight in the sun is fascinating, because they are both there fighting for the same reason. Really, they both want the same thing, which is the death of both of them. Mark is
yeah,
fighting. He's like, if I can survive, great. I don't care. I just need to kill you. And
yeah.
Thrag is like, I need to kill you, but I'm then probably just gonna go and sink myself into this thing anyway, because what do I care?
You see Ant-Man Quantumania?
Not yet, no.
Like that was a thing. The whole finale was Ant-Man fighting Kang and he says, I don't have to win.
I just need you to
I
lose.
just need to make sure you lose.
It's Hux and
It's
Kylo
so
Ren.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it
yeah.
is. It's so good, and I can't believe the first time I read this, I was floored. I was like, I can't believe this ending. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because the way Kirkman and Ottley work was putting like fake spoilers on covers,
And in
putting
solicits and everything, like
the most dire ending possible on a cover. Uh, so you tend to blast through the issues quickly to get to that point, and it's usually a lie. And with
especially in the back
every
half of the series, for sure.
what was the event where it was like
The death of
something like Mark
Invincible.
dies, the end of
Yeah. And it was just went through
Invincible, the
every
end
issue.
of Debbie, the end of
Atom Eve. Like,
Adam Eve, and it was like it's one of those things where you're like, I don't believe it, but there's always a cynical side to it. So the fact that the actual end of Invincible was everybody's fine, Nolan's gone,
well,
as far as good
I
guys
mean,
go.
Oliver's gone, Nolan's gone. Like, there's some major
Yeah,
characters die. It's not that everyone's fine. No, what like, and
but
they've all suffered some loss. But like,
to come out pretty
Mark,
good
yeah,
considering the
Mark, Eve
circumstances. Mark had a
are
bolt in
fine.
his head and had skin grafts everywhere. He looked crazy, but you're like,
He's
he'll be
essentially he's
okay.
been rebuilt from literally
Yeah,
skeleton up a few times at this point.
yeah,
He's the ship of Theseus of humans, or
yeah.
half human, half Viltrumites.
But him standing by his pool, like that's as happy an
Happy,
ending
and
as you can
still,
get.
still Mark, still a bit of a dorky kid.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's great.
Which is great that he doesn't lose his humanity when after he saved the world He's fought Robot. He's ready to send the children of Viltrumite to a place where they can be cool. He's doing all
He
this
knows
stuff
that
on
he has
Earth
to
because he
leave
doesn't
Earth.
want to leave. He
Yeah.
doesn't want to leave. But what's great is he tells his mom, I'm going to come back because Earth has the best comics. And it's like, it's still Mark. It's still the kid from issue 1. And that line, Earth still has the best comics. I love it, because it's Mark. He's still that kid that we remember from issue 1. And second, other planets have comics.
It's great, isn't it?
It might not be as good.
The implication of that is really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like saying Earth has the best cheeseburgers or whatever you want to sort of substitute in there. Yeah. It's fun.
It's really fun knowing that Mark, in these 144 issues, and him traveling around the galaxy, he probably picked up comic books at other
at least checked
planets.
them out. I mean, he's lived on other planets for probably at that point longer, or almost as long maybe as he had lived on Earth. So yeah. It's wild.
So,
I mean, especially considering there's times where, like, even by the time he was like 18, he'd spent a few hundred years. I know that was Robot, who'd spent like Robot a Monster Girl had spent hundreds of years on a different planet because of time dilation and everything. Like,
I love the way where he left Earth with Robot's brain. Only
back to just being
again, leaving a thread open where Robot's brain can hook to machinery, could probably create some nanobots or robots,
and also could corrupt a former villain who's turned good as well. Like, it's like, who knows? But that's the thing with Robot. Robot wasn't a villain in the traditional sense. He was just had a twisted non-humanity way of looking at everything. Like, he did make the world better, but in a really gross authoritarian way.
Yeah. But having Immortal be the president again, essentially.
Yeah, well, yeah, or at least overseeing and stuff. It's Abe Lincoln. It's honest Abe is back, but also being advised by Robot. Like, he doesn't need to do everything that Robot says, but Robot's there with that advice, which is exactly what he should be doing.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece. I've always said that it's my favorite superhero comic. Having just finished it again, it fights to potentially be my favorite comic book of all time. Like, it's up there. It's I mean, easily top 3. I don't know what it might have to fight off. Scott Pilgrim, probably it would have to fight off, but yeah. Saga's making a good run for it, but it's still ongoing. We'll see how they wrap that up.
I need to start rereading that. I need to catch up. I have not caught up. I'm going to do.
I haven't caught up with the stuff since they came back. I read the first issue and then I was like, no, I prefer reading this in trades. So, but I know that there is a trade out. I just haven't got it yet. Love it. But yeah, for a long time it was always the last one.
I don't want to tell people how to spend their money.
I need to be getting going soon as well.
I just did the math. So if you haven't read Invincible and you've made it through this far, and if all of them are 25 cents each,
I bet the first one's free.
I bet the first one's free. If they're all 25 cents each, you can buy all 144 issues on the Kindle for $36.
Holy shit. That is the best deal in comic books.
Yeah. The page I looked at.
That's a blind buy. Like, if anyone is watching or listening to this and has made it this far and is fascinated by all the stuff that we said, there is so much that we haven't talked about. So don't feel like because we've talked about the ending, you don't need to read it. Like, if any of this interests you and you've made it this far, blind buy all of it. Just do it right now.
Yeah. Again, I don't know how much it all is. All I know is the last arc was, like, when I opened the page, said 25 cents.
Yeah. Jeremy's just mentioned that was the cost of one compendium. Still a bargain. Like,
it's great to look at it on your shelf.
It's beautiful to have it.
Yeah. So happy ending. Great. Amazing. Terrific. Kirkman, I don't know. I did not expect that. It was the least expecting ending
for sure.
for me. It was a happy ending, and I'm glad he did it. So yeah,
That's gonna do it for
that's it.
Invincipod for the foreseeable. We will be back at some point, hopefully not too long. I say at the very, very, very latest, let's do one of these after Ahsoka's wrapped up and we need a little bit of a break from talking about Star Wars. So that would
And
be what,
that'd be
September?
September.
September time?
Yeah,
At the
maybe
very,
we'll
very
have a
latest.
trailer.
Hopefully
If a
we'll have a
trailer
trailer and
shows
a
up,
release date. Oh yeah, trailer
we'll
shows
jump on.
up, anything like that, any big news, anything, we'll jump on and we'll be here. So keep an eye
Yeah.
on socials at Invincipod, wherever you find us.
Yeah.
But if you want to watch us or listen to us, next week we'll be back on live action Star Wars, the live action SW everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we will be there. And next week we are going to talk about some deleted scenes from Return of the Jedi.
Amazing.
Specifically the Tatooine leaving scene and Luke building his lightsaber.
Awesome.
Specifically, but we'll probably touch on everything because otherwise that's gonna be a really short episode. Because
Yeah.
I'm gonna go see it on Sunday. I saw it last year, whenever it was when I saw it with a live orchestra, but I bloody love that movie and I like seeing it on the big screen. So
And I'll probably talk about Ben Burtt.
nice, yes, perfect. Yeah, fun stuff coming up on live action Star Wars. So stick
You
around.
gotta get going.
Yeah, I gotta go to work.
Thanks everyone for showing up, and we'll catch you next time. I don't know if we had a sign out. Look to the skies or something. Is that what you used to say?
Something. Yeah, I don't know. We'll work it. We'll work on it. I think we said this last time. Bye.
Yeah, we're hoping everybody has a happy ending.